The purpose of this presentation is to inform you about the most effective strategies for evaluating offers and negotiating compensation packages. Negotiations may feel stressful or awkward, and you may ultimately just want to secure the job and put an end to the entire job search process. For many people, even considering negotiating is a bit anxiety-inducing, but when you learn the right strategies, you might be surprised how quickly you can gain extra salary and other benefits through negotiations, and I'm going to walk you through some of these strategies. I'll begin today's session by providing some basic information about career services for doctoral students and postdocs. I'll then spend some time talking about how to increase your knowledge of what is negotiable. Next, I'll provide a method of evaluating job offers. Then I'll go over some steps of the negotiation process. And I'll conclude with some suggestions for next steps, because this is really just a starting point of how to evaluate and negotiate when you get a job offer. The first thing I want everyone to know is that there's a network of career services offices. Depending on which college or school your doctoral program or your postdoc program is located, you would access the services in one or more of these 4 career centers. All doc students and postdocs have access to the career services through the University Career Center and the President's Promise. That website is careers.umd.edu. Through your primary career portal and C4T, you can register for events, see job postings, and other online resources such as InterviewStream, where you can practice for an upcoming interview that you may have. Career services are provided for all PhD students and postdocs through the Office of Professional and Career Development in the Graduate School, which is in collaboration with University Career Center and the President's Promise. More information is located on the grad school's website at go.umd.edu/PhD career info. On this website, you can find links to all of our upcoming workshops, career tools and resources for you, previous workshop and event recordings, and more. I've also provided Susan's email address, along with mine, should you like to contact us at any point about this workshop or the career and professional development services that our office offers. Our contact information is also listed on the website. So this is a quick little diagram of the hiring process. By the time you get a job offer, you will have successfully walked through a number of phases of the hiring process. Your application materials will have made it through a screening process. You will have been asked back for an interview, and maybe at the end of the interview, you will receive a verbal job offer. In some cases, that may come in writing or an email shortly after the interview. We're really talking about this last step of the hiring process today. Additionally, there will be an onboarding process once you accept the offer, which involves additional paperwork, granting of access to online systems, and perhaps a background or security check. I suggest that later on you read these articles. They provide more in-depth information about how to actually evaluate a job offer, meaning how to accept, reject, and negotiate. So how to negotiate a salary, and a little bit about how to calculate your take-home pay. It is tempting to really see the salary number in the job offer, and that's it. However, you need to know how to evaluate the annual or monthly and what that looks like in terms of take-home pay, meaning after taxes and other kinds of deductions. That salary can look really different, and you should evaluate each offer in light of your actual budget and salary needs. All right. So the first point I want to make is that you need to start doing salary research as part of your initial interview preparation. The reason that you do this is to be prepared with a response to questions that you may be asked about your salary expectations during a screening interview or on-site interview. Broadly speaking, there are multiple sources of information that you can use to do salary research. And I'm sure that you've already used Glassdoor, LinkedIn Salary, and Indeed. But these aren't the only ones, of course. There are some reports that are published by professional associations. For example, if you're evaluating a salary offer for a faculty position, the American Association of University Professors, also known as AAUP, does a comprehensive salary survey on a regular basis. So you can get a sense of salary ranges for different types of faculty positions at different types of institutions. And there are other professional associations that do salary reporting as well. One other great resource of information about salary ranges is your own professional network. Alumni, colleagues, and friends who are working within an organization can give information about salary ranges within their organization and industry. Also, they can provide information about the ways that their organization, particularly larger companies, make offers, what is included in these offers, and what is negotiable or not. So do not underestimate what others can tell you about the process. And it is perfectly acceptable to ask about salary ranges. Note, you're not asking someone what their salary is, because that would not be acceptable or polite. What you're doing during this initial salary research, you're looking at the different job titles and job descriptions that match the position that you're being offered, and hence the right salary range to use in your negotiations. For example, when you look at sites like Glassdoor, you'll notice that there is perhaps a title of Research Scientist 1, or Research Scientist 2, or Research Scientist Manager. And oftentimes you have to look at the types of tasks that are performed to figure out which job title and salary range is aligned with the positions that you are applying to and offers you will receive. Also, many of these sites will ask you to put in a location because the cost of living varies a lot depending on where you live in the US. When you start using these sites, you will start to realize that there can be quite a range for the salaries. So notice the range and the median salary for similar positions as you consider and evaluate your offer. And think about how you match the position's skills. In some cases, you're going to exceed the qualifications and experience and not quite meet others. Remember that you're using these reported salaries as a point of reference for evaluating the offer and beginning the salary negotiations. So, what do you say if you're being asked to provide salary data in a job application cover letter or during the screening or on-site interview? If you are asked, it's always a good move to totally deflect or only talk about a range and mention the range being based on research that you've done for a comparable position in this geographical region. You don't want to give one number because that might undervalue yourself. Sometimes you want to share that range because particularly if you're not so sure that they're going to be compensating well. You might want to share what you've learned based on your research and then ask what the salary range is for that particular position. How is it budgeted? Oftentimes with grant-funded positions, that's a great question to ask because they can't exceed what they put in that budget. If you're feeling pressured, you might even want to say, I'd rather talk about salary after I received a job offer, or let's see if I'm a good fit before discussing salary. You could also say, I would fully hope and expect salary would line up with market rates in this region. It's always good to deflect salary discussion until you're much further in the process. And the reason why employers will ask this question is they want to be sure that you understand the market's current salaries. For example, salaries may be lower in higher ed or nonprofits as opposed to some private industry position. It is important for you to be informed and knowledgeable. All right, so let's say that you have an offer. What's next? Well, now is the time to consider how that position is a good fit for you besides salary. While you're interviewing, you have the opportunity to gather a lot of information from those who you meet about what it's like to work in that organization. And hopefully you have a much clearer picture of what that job entails day to day. Keep in mind that this particular job that you're being offered is not for the rest of your life. It's for this moment in time. It's your next step. How is it aligned with what interests and motivates you? How does it fit with your priorities and values? If you aren't exactly clear on these because you've been focused on your dissertation or working in academia for so long, I would encourage you to take some assessments and Imagine PhD. There are 3 different assessments there to help you figure out where your priorities, values, skills, and interests lie. This has been particularly useful for myself when I did these, so I would highly recommend doing this if you have not already. Another thing to consider is what skills are you going to use and gain. Remember, this is just one opportunity and it's going to position you for future opportunities. So you should evaluate a job based not only on what you will do, but what are you going to gain? You might take a position because of how you will grow and develop in that job and how it will prepare you to take the next step in your particular career path. Next, sometimes people take a position that isn't necessarily aligned with their absolute love and priorities, but they just want to get their foot in the door of a particular company or federal agency, for example. So once you're in, you have the opportunity to network and move on to other positions. This doesn't have to be your forever job. As you're interacting with the hiring manager and the other people, does it feel right? Is it an open, engaged atmosphere, or is it a place where people are working quietly in their cubicles? You also want to consider who you're going to be working with. You look around, and is the hiring manager someone who is really well connected in that organization and great at mentoring? Do you see racial, ethnic, and gender diversity? Are the coworkers and the teams that you're going to be working with diverse? Can you imagine yourself fitting in with that group of individuals as professional colleagues? Does the work environment and interactions that you observe align with that website and the HR folks and what they're saying about the company culture and the priorities? You also want to think about the location and commute. Can you get there easily? Can you use public transportation? If you have children, is this a place where you want your kids to be going for school? Is there a housing shortage, or is there plenty of housing available? You'll notice the last one is the overall compensation package. Often people think of salary immediately when they think of evaluating job offers, but there are so many things that should be taken into consideration. Salary is just one part of the job offer. So let me show you a little bit about what the research says from salary.com. Data reveals that 55% of women feel apprehensive about negotiation. And a large percentage, 50% of millennials, have not done any sort of negotiation for compensation in their current position. And almost 80% didn't negotiate in their first jobs. Additionally, 2/3 reported not knowing how to ask for more, which means that they felt ill-equipped to negotiate for a raise later on. Remember, future raises are usually a percentage increase over current salary, so even just a few more $1,000s can make a difference over 3 to 5 years. There's a lot more that's negotiables than salary, as I mentioned. Even in times of economic recession, you should plan on negotiating some part of the compensation package that you have been offered. You might negotiate relocation reimbursement, or if there is funding for lodging while you find housing. Start dates are also negotiable. Salary, of course, is negotiable. Whether or not you have flex time and can telecommute. Oftentimes, though, this is a supervisory issue. Stock options and bonuses. These are typically in tech companies. So when you start digging into these salary websites, they will often tell you what a typical sign-on bonus is, if there is one. In the past, the final 5 items in red are for those of you who would be offered a faculty position. Given all the current hiring freezes and tough competition for posted positions, it may still be possible to negotiate some of these items, so it would be important to ask. These first 3, especially service commitments, are very important, particularly in the beginning of your career when you're going to be transitioning into the institution. So you want to make sure that you're not taking on so much. And if you're in STEM, startup packages to fund labs and other equipment are also negotiable. The last item is about being able to take leave in times of tenure. I would encourage you to talk to your reliable faculty and mentor advisors about negotiating, especially to those who were offered positions in the wake of the 2008 recession. Given all the challenges that higher education is facing, though, we are encouraging everyone to explore and apply to other career options in addition to tenure-track faculty positions. All right, let me review very quickly before moving on. I've already said that you're going to deflect until you have an offer. If you happen to get a phone call, or if you're at the end of an on-site visit and the person starts making you the job offer, make sure that they're giving you a starting salary in that offer. You should ask questions about what they're saying and take some notes. You should not respond immediately. Really think them, be positive, and ask for the offer in writing and some time to consider the offer. If an employer is pushing you, that should be a red flag. You should be comfortable at the end of the interview day or at the end of the phone conversation where someone is making you that offer. You should feel comfortable to say, I look forward to getting that in writing, and ask them when they will be sending you an email. Once you start putting things down in emails, you're getting closer to a contract and a final commitment. There may be some back and forth that happens in person or through email, and then usually you get an official offer letter. Also, there's often additional paperwork to the employment contract, especially if there's security clearance or a physical or any other steps in the hiring process. So be sure to read the employment contract carefully and ask questions before signing and accepting an offer. You can also schedule an appointment with your primary career center to go over the offer and determine your negotiation strategy. Before you begin any negotiations, though, you should come up with a target salary, the salary that you want to secure when the negotiation is all said and done. You're going to ask yourself a series of questions. Do you exceed the requirements of this job? Are you bringing something extra? Just having a PhD in hand does not necessarily mean that you're going to earn a higher salary. There are individuals with master's degrees and more appropriate experience that might make a higher starting salary than you. It just depends on what that position is, the supply and demand for individuals with the skills, how quickly the employer needs to fill it, and how much they want to hire you as opposed to other candidates. Employers are looking for a combination of education, prior experience, and transferable skills, but they're also looking for fit. Part of figuring out the target salary range is also by looking at the local labor pool. There may be all sorts of people in a particular region of the company with the same skill set that you have. So while you may exceed the starting salary, you may have so many applicants that they don't have to pay more to fill that position. And again, it just depends on what the job is and the local labor market. And it may also depend on the cost of living. There may be trends going on in specific career paths as well in industries that are going to determine what the salaries are going to look like. Some industries are in a growth position and others are declining. In particular labor markets, there may not be a lot of data scientists, for example, so salaries may be inflated. There may also be parts of the country where there is a lot of employer competition for certain skill sets. So how you come up with your target salary is going to be a combination of all of these things, as well as the information that you've gathered about how the organization makes offers from websites and through networking. It should be noted that the increased acceptance of working remotely by both employers and employees as a result of COVID is changing things. So if you have an offer and remote work is something that you would like to do, you should ask questions and consider negotiating remote work into your contract when you have that offer. So as an overview of these steps, you need to first understand your value, so your skills, etc., and how that positions you as a competitive candidate for these jobs that you're applying for. The second consideration is developing a realistic postgraduate school budget. For some of you, moving on from a GA salary to something that probably pays substantially more will be quite a change. In the TERP guide, there is a budget chart that you can use. Before you move to the next step, I would encourage you to figure out what you need to live each month. You may have student loans, other debts, and other family members that you're supporting, so really figure out what your bottom line annual salary is ahead of time by taking your particular situation into account. And I've already talked about benchmarking or doing salary research. So you're going to research and find the appropriate job title in the salary tools of the major websites. Then you're going to find the salary range and then come up with your target number. And you'll be able to come up with your salary amount that you're going to start negotiating at, so that at the end of your target salary after the negotiation is over. Usually that is not more than 10% of what the offer would be. It could usually be more if the offer is unusually low, but remember, you have so many other things to negotiate as well. Additionally, I strongly suggest that you calculate what your take-home pay would look like at that target. There's going to be a bottom line salary that you just can't go below. And of course, you're going to factor in benefits. So how you're going to pay for health insurance and other parts of the compensation package. You're going to negotiate. Sometimes people ask about the timing and if they should negotiate everything, so meaning salaries, benefits, and so on at once. In most cases, you want to get salary out of the way first, and there's lots online and other advice about how to negotiate with larger tech companies that also include signing bonuses and stock options. Your overall negotiation strategy will be an individual thing, and this is something that you should talk with a career advisor about if this is your first negotiation. And finally, you're going to finish things up in writing. In the initial salary, if it is at or above your target salary, then you should respond positively, ask for time to consider, and then look over the entire package carefully. You may want to go back and ask some questions. Even if that salary looks great, don't prematurely accept. Always ask for time to consider and discuss the offer at home. Most employers will give you 48 to 72 hours to consider an offer. Asking for more time, though, can make it seem like you're not interested in the offer. If you get an offer that's below your bottom line, attempt to negotiate the salary upward. Think also how the benefits might bridge the gap. I would encourage you to negotiate and really think about your employer's reactions and what they're going to be. If you can't negotiate above this bottom line, you may need to consider whether this job meets your needs. Even in this case, if the negotiation doesn't yield the salary that you're willing to accept, always be positive. Talk about the enthusiasm for the position, and as you negotiate, try to find the common ground. Decline in a very respectful way, and a career advisor can help you with that. I now want to offer you some negotiation starters, some templates. You can do these in person or through email, so when you get the offer, you have some ways to open that conversation up. So one way would be, do you have any flexibility on the starting salary number? And another way would be, thank you for the offer. This position seems like a great fit, and based on my research, I was thinking a starting salary in the range of blank would be more appropriate. As you think about your value, you start making a case for the reasons that you're going to give for that higher salary. So I want to talk about some things to avoid. Never have unrealistic expectations about salary. Do your research. One of the things that can stop the negotiation is an aggressive, contentious attitude. Calm, respectable negotiation is a skill. And the last thing is critical. Do not accept an offer in writing and then back out. You are building trust in colleague relationships. You never know how this will affect you down the road. So what are some next steps that you can take? Some of you may not have used the tools on your primary career center's website before, so some of you may need to start right there. I'd also recommend reading some of the suggested articles on negotiation techniques. Maybe do some basic salary research. Read about and practice negotiation, perhaps with a friend. And if you have any questions along the way, especially if you're starting to get offers, schedule a career advising appointment. Again, this is our contact information and our website link, along with our Twitter handle. And if you'd like to talk about how to do salary research, how to create a salary range for yourself, or if you would like to discuss the timing of your negotiation, you can make an appointment with Susan in C4T. And if you'd like to discuss how this type of session might be done for members of a graduate student organization, please contact me directly. Thank you for taking the time to attend this session, and we look forward to supporting you through your career development and your job search process.